peace on earth. This Christmas season finds us a rather bewildered human race. We neither have peace within nor peace without. Everywhere paralyzing fears harrow people by day and haunt them by night. Our world is sick with war. Everywhere we turn, we see its ominous possibility. And yet, my friends, the Christmas hope for peace and goodwill toward all men can no longer be dismissed as a kind of highest dream of some utopian hoper. If we don't have goodwill toward men in this world, we will destroy ourselves by the misuse of our own instruments and our own power. Wisdom born of experience should tell us that war is obsolete. There may have been a time when war served as a negative good by preventing the spread and growth of an evil force, but the very destructive power of modern weapons of warfare eliminates even the possibility that war may any longer serve as a negative good. So if we assume that life is worth living, if we assume that mankind has a right to survive, then we must find an alternative to war. And so let us this morning explore the conditions for peace. And as we explore these conditions, I'd like to suggest that modern man really go all out, study the meaning of nonviolence, its philosophy and its strategy. We have experimented with the meaning of nonviolence in our struggle for racial justice in the United States. But now, time has come for man to experiment with nonviolence in all areas of human conflict. And that means nonviolence on an international scale. Now, let me suggest first that if we are to have peace on earth, our loyalties must become ecumenical rather than sectional. No individual can live alone. No nation can live alone. And as long as we try, more we are going to have war in this world. The judgment of God is upon us. And we must either learn to live together as brothers, or we are all going to perish together as fools. Yes, as nations and individuals, we are interdependent. I mentioned to you before of our visit to India some years ago. It was a marvelous experience. But I say to you this morning that there were those depressing moments. How can one avoid being depressed when he sees with his own eyes evidences of millions of people going to bed hungry at night? How can one avoid being depressed when he sees with his own eyes thousands of people sleeping on the sidewalks at night? More than 1 million people sleep on the sidewalks of Bombay, India every night. More than 500,000 sleep on the sidewalks of Calcutta every night. They have no houses to go in. They have no beds to sleep in. As I beheld these conditions, something within me cried out, we in America stand idly by and not be concerned, and an answer came, oh no. And I started thinking about that. Right here in our country, we spend millions of dollars every day to store surplus food. And I said to myself, I know where we can store that food free of charge. In the wrinkled stomach of the millions of God's children in Asia and Africa, Latin America, and even in our own nation who go to bed hungry at night. It really boils down to this, that all life is interrelated. We are all caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny, and whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. We are made to live together because of the interrelated structure of reality. Did you ever stop to think that you can't leave for your job in the morning without being dependent on most of the world? You get up in the morning and go to the bathroom and reach over for a sponge, and that's handed to you by a Pacific Island. You reach for a bar of soap, and that's given to you at the hands of a French. And then you go in the kitchen to drink your coffee for the morning. That's poured in your cup by a South American. Or maybe you want tea. That's poured in your cup by a Chinese. Or maybe you're desirous of having cocoa for breakfast, and that's poured in your cup by a West African. And then you reach over for your toast, and that's given to you at the hands of an English-speaking farmer, not to mention the baker. And before you finish eating breakfast in the morning, you're dependent on more than half of the world. This is the way our universe is structured. It is its interrelated quality. We aren't going to have peace on earth until we recognize this basic fact of the interrelated structure of all reality. Now let me say, secondly, that if we're to have peace in the world, men and nations must embrace the nonviolent affirmation that ends and means must cohere. One of the great philosophical debates of history has been over the whole question of means and end. And there have always been those who argued that the end justifies the means, that the means really aren't important. The important thing is to get to the end you seek. So if you are seeking to develop a just society, the important thing is to get there, and the means really aren't important. any means that will get you there. They may be violent, they may be untruthful means, they may even be unjust means to get to a just end. There have been those who have argued this throughout history. We will never have peace in the world. Men everywhere recognize that ends are not cut off from means, because the means represent the ideal in the making and the end in process. And ultimately, you can't reach good ends through evil means, because means represent seed and the end represents a tree. It's one of the strangest things that all of the great military geniuses of the world have talked about peace. The conquerors of old came killing in pursuit of peace. Alexander, Julius Caesar, Charlemagne, and Napoleon were akin in seeking a peaceful world order. You know, if you will read Mein Kampf close enough, Hitler contended that everything that he did in Germany was for peace. The leaders of the world today talk eloquently about peace. Every time we drop our bombs in North Vietnam, President Johnson is talking eloquently about peace. What is the problem? They are talking about peace as a distant goal, as an end we seek. One day we must come to see that peace is not merely a distant goal that we seek, but it is a means by which we arrive at that goal. We must pursue peaceful ends through peaceful means. All of this is saying that in the final analysis, means and end must cohere, because the end is pre-existent in the means, and ultimately destructive means, and not bring about constructive ends. Now let me say, the next thing we must be concerned about if we're to have peace on earth, goodwill toward men, must be the nonviolent affirmation of the sacredness of all human life. Life is sacred. Every man is somebody because he is a child of God. So when we say thou shalt not kill, we're really saying that human life is too sacred to be killed on the battlefields of the world.
What you're listening to is Martin Luther King Jr. from Christmas Eve, 1967. This sermon was the fifth of 5 Massey lectures that he delivered on CBC Radio that year. Here once again, Dr. King.
Man is more than a tiny vagary of whirling electrons out of whispered smoke from a limitless smolderant. Man is a child of God, made in his image, and therefore must be respected as such. Until men see this everywhere, until nations see this everywhere, we will be fighting war. One day somebody should remind us that even though there may be political and ideological differences, the Vietnamese are our brothers, the Russians are our brothers, the Chinese are our brothers. One day you've got to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. There are 3 words for love in the Greek New Testament. One is the word eros. Eros is a sort of aesthetic, romantic love. Then the Greek language talks about phileo, which is another word for love. Now, phileo is a kind of intimate love between personal friends. Then the Greek language comes out with another word for love. It is the word agape. Agape is more than romantic love. It is more than friendship. Agape is understanding, creative, redemptive goodwill for all men. Theologians would say that it is the love of God operating in the human heart. And so when you rise to love on this level, you love all men, not because you like them, not because their ways appeal to you, but you love every man because God loves you. This is what Jesus meant, said, love your enemy. And I'm happy that he didn't say like your enemies, because there are some people that I find it pretty difficult to like. Like is an affectionate emotion, and I can't like anybody bombing my home. I can't like anybody who would exploit me. I can't like anybody who would trample over me with injustices. I can't like them. I can't like anybody who threatens to kill me day in and day out. Jesus reminds us that love is greater than life. And I think this is where we are in our struggle for racial justice. We can't ever give up. We shall not in the process relinquish our privilege to love. I've seen too much hate to want to hate myself. I've seen hate on the faces of too many sheriffs, too many white citizens, counselors, and too many Klansmen of the South to want to hate myself. And every time I see it, I say to myself, hate is too great a burden to bear. Somehow, we must be able to stand up before our most bitter opponents and say, we will meet your physical force with soul force. Do to us what you will, and we will still love you. We cannot in all good conscience obey your unjust laws and abide by the unjust system, because non-cooperation with evil is as much a moral obligation as is cooperation with good. And so throw us in jail. We will still love you. Send your propaganda agents around the country. Make it appear that we are not fit culturally and otherwise for integration, but we will still love you. But be ye assured that we will wear you down by our capacity to suffer. One day we will win our freedom. We will not only win freedom for ourselves, we will so appeal to your heart and conscience that we will win you in the process. And our victory will be a double victory. If that is to be peace on earth and goodwill toward men, we must finally believe in the ultimate morality of the universe. Believe that all reality hinges on moral foundation. And as we continue to hope for peace on earth and goodwill toward men, let us know that in the process we have cosmic companionship. In 1963, on a sweltering August afternoon, we stood in Washington, D.C. We talked to the nation about many things. Toward the end of that afternoon, I tried to talk to the nation about a dream that I'd had. And I must confess to you today that not long after talking about that dream, I started seeing it turn into a nightmare. I remember the first time I saw that dream turned into a nightmare, just a few weeks after I had talked about it, was when 4 beautiful, unoffending, innocent Negro girls were murdered in a church in Birmingham, Alabama. I watched that dream turn into a nightmare as I moved through the ghettos of the nation, saw my black brothers and sisters perishing on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity, saw the nation really doing nothing to grapple with the Negro's problem of poverty. I saw that dream turn into a nightmare as I watched my black brothers and sisters in the midst of anger and understandable outrage, in the midst of their hurt, in the midst of their disappointment, turn to misguided riots to try to solve that problem. I saw that dream turn to a nightmare. I watched the war in Vietnam escalate as I saw so-called military advisors, 16,000 strong, turn into fighting soldiers. So today, some 500,000 American boys fighting on Asian soil. Yes, I am personally the victim of deferred dream, blasted hope. But in spite of that, I close today by saying I still have a dream. Because you know you can't give up in life. If you lose hope somehow, you lose that vitality that keeps life moving. You lose that courage to be, that quality that helps you to go on in spite of. So today I still have a dream. Men will rise up, come to see that they are made to live together as brothers. I still have a dream this morning. One day, every Negro in this country, every colored person in the world will be judged on the basis of the content of his character rather than the color of his skin. And every man will respect the dignity and worth of human personality. I still have a dream today. One day the idle industries of Appalachia will be vitalized. The empty stomach of Mississippi will be filled. And brotherhood will be more than a few words at the end of a prayer, but the first order of business on every legislative agenda. I still have a dream today. One day justice will roll down like waters, righteousness like a mighty stream. I still have a dream today. And in all of our state houses and city halls, men will be elected to go there who will do justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with their God. I still have a dream today that one day war will come to an end, that men will beat their swords into plowshares, their spears into, and nations will no longer rise up against nations, neither will they study war anymore. I still have a dream today that one day the lamb and the lion will lie down together, and every man will sit under his own vine and fig tree, and none shall be afraid. I still have a dream today. One day every valley shall be exalted, and every mountain and hill will be made low, the rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places straight. Glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. I still have a dream. With this faith, we will be able to adjourn councils of despair, bring new light to the dark chambers of pessimism. With this faith, we will be able to speed up the day, and there will be peace on earth and goodwill toward men. It will be a glorious day. The morning stars will sing together, and the sons of God will shout for joy.